Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel. Let's talk about homeschool planning, because if there is one thing that can trip us up before the school year even starts, it's feeling like we have to plan everything perfectly. Now, when I first started homeschooling, I honestly thought I needed to have every subject mapped out by the week, every book selected ahead of time, every worksheet printed and prepped, everything ready to go before the first day of school. I had lists and binders and schedule, and I was just so proud of how ready I was. But the problem was, I had built this beautiful plan for a homeschool that didn't exist yet. I was trying to plan a whole year for a child I was still getting to know as a learner. I didn't leave space for life to just happen. And within a few weeks, I was already behind on my perfect plan. So I did what most of us do. I scrapped the whole thing, tried something totally different. And, well, that didn't work either. It took me a few years and a lot of trial and error to figure out a planning method that actually works for our family. One that gives me structure without stress. One that helps us stay focused, but also flexible. So if you've ever felt like planning is just too much, or you love the idea of being organized, but the follow through kind of feels overwhelming, then this video is for you. Today, I am going to walk you through 3 steps that I use to simplify our homeschool year. It's not fancy, it's not color-coded, it's just that real-life, doable planning that helps us focus on what matters and let go of what doesn't matter. Whether you're brand new to homeschooling or you're just looking for a more peaceful way to plan, I hope that this gives you a few ideas you can take and just make it your own. The first thing I always do when I sit down to plan our homeschool year is zoom all the way out and look at the big picture, right? I don't start with the details, not with subjects or daily schedule, but with the overall flow of the year. For us, that means looking at what our homeschool rhythm is going to be based on how our life actually works. We start our homeschool year in February, the first full week every year. That gives us plenty of time to rest and reset after the holidays, and I go into the year with intention. Then we usually take like a 2 to 3 week break around the end of June into early July. That time does kind of flex just depending on what all we have going on. And then we finish our homeschool year by the end of October. Now, that rhythm is really what works best for our family. It lets us fully enjoy the fall and winter seasons because that time of year is a big part of our family and our family culture. We like to slow down, be outside, and just be together. So when I'm planning the school year, I build around that rhythm, not against it. Start with the year that you actually want to live. I recommend pulling out a simple calendar, nothing fancy, and just kind of sketching out what your year might look like. Mark your start date, your natural break spots, and when you plan to be finished. Of course, leave margin. Give yourself space to rest and reset along the way. The next thing I think about at the big picture level is what I actually want to cover that year outside of the core stuff. Now, some subjects are simple, right? You just buy the next level and that kind of takes you through all of the content in order. Kind of like math, right? That's easy. But then there are things like unit studies or supplements, which we enjoy using a lot in our homeschool. And that's where I get to be a little bit more intentional. I'll ask, is there anything we haven't covered yet that would be fun or foundational? Is there something maybe that my daughter is really interested in right now? Or is there a seasonal or spiritual focus that I want to include this year? A couple of years ago, I knew that I wanted to go through the Growing Up with God unit from Gather Round. And since that unit included some anatomy and body systems, I actually just went ahead and used that as a chance to cover the human body more intentionally because we hadn't really done done any formal study on that yet. That one decision really kind of helped shape the entire school year. So when you think big picture like that, you really can be a little more purposeful with the year without needing to plan every single lesson from the start. So whether you're using a printed planner, a wall calendar, or just notes in a notebook, this first step is all about vision. Ask yourself, when are we starting? When are we stopping? Where do we want to take breaks? What are some specific things that I want to make sure we cover this year? And what kind of rhythm supports our actual life? When you plan this way, you're not forcing your homeschool into a box. You're building a year that really supports your goals, your family culture, and your child's interests. And then from there, everything else becomes a little easier to map out. Once you've got your big picture view of your homeschool year, you start, stop, breaks, any big topics, things like that. The next thing that I suggest is to set simple goals for each quarter or term. And when I say simple, I mean something that you can actually look at and follow through on without needing a second cup of coffee and a spreadsheet to figure it all out. Quarter goals are a great way to take that whole year, break it down into manageable chunks. You're not planning every single lesson here. You're just creating kind of like a check-in point that helps keep you focused, but still allows flexibility. I usually base our quarterly goals on two things. What curriculum are we using? And then what's the rhythm of our week? So if I know we're doing math 4 days a week, I look at how many lessons that realistically gets us through in 9 to 12 weeks. So I'll set a loose goal from there. If you don't already have a weekly rhythm in place, this is actually a good time to start thinking about that. Not a rigid schedule, but just kind of that general flow. Think about what subjects are we doing each day, which days need to be a little lighter, when do we need to leave some margin. We are going to talk about how to build that simple weekly rhythm in just a minute, so keep that in the back of your mind as you're thinking through these goals. Now, for us personally, this is one of the most helpful parts of planning because I actually reverse plan. So that means I don't write everything ahead of time. I actually track what we've done for the day. So having those quarter goals gives me that structure without boxing me in. It lets me track our progress without feeling behind, and it creates a little bit of space to adjust if life kind of changes, which it always does. So for example, if we get to the end of a quarter and we're actually a little bit behind in something, I know where we need to lean in a little bit more. But if we've gotten a little ahead, that's helpful too, because then I can decide if we want to slow down, take a break, or maybe we just plan to kind of wrap that one up a little early. It also gives me room to shift our pace based on how things are going with my daughter, whether she's picking something up quickly or whether we need to slow down and spend a little bit more time on a concept before we continue. And this can apply to anything, right? Math, writing, reading, unit studies, whatever. I might say we're aiming to finish 2 units this quarter, or I want to build more independence in handwriting. Or maybe we'll introduce spelling this term, but let's keep it kind of light. So it's not about checking boxes. It's just a simple way to stay intentional while giving yourself room to breathe. So as you're thinking through your year, take a few minutes to just jot down a few goals for each quarter. Nothing fancy, just kind of that loose plan that gives your homeschool some direction, but not pressure. That one habit has helped me stay so much more grounded throughout the year. It's kind of like a compass, more so than a schedule. And I think that's really what makes it work. So now you've got your big picture view and you've set a couple simple goals for the quarter. The next thing that I recommend is building out your weekly framework, just something to help guide your days in a realistic way that's actually doable. And let me be clear, okay? This is not a detailed daily itinerary with subjects and time slots and all of those things. It's really just about creating a rhythm that works with your life, not against it. I've done the overly scheduled thing where I've planned everything down to the hour, math at 9, reading at 9:30, science starts at 10. And sure, okay, that looks great on paper, but the second that something unexpected happens or takes 5 minutes longer, then now the whole day falls apart. So I did the total opposite. We just kind of wake up and wing it, no real plan, no real flow, and that actually got kind of old fast. It left us both kind of aimlessly wandering, and we were spending more time reacting than actually guiding our days. So the sweet spot for me has been having clear, simple weekly rhythm. So there's a structure that brings the consistency, but it leaves space for life. Right now, that looks like a 4-day school week for us. Monday through Thursday are our focused homeschool days. Those are the days where I'm doing the teaching, we're going through the unit studies, we're going through curriculum, all of those. And then Friday is when my daughter works independently, and we use that day to kind of catch up on anything that we didn't get to do, or we will just use it as our chores day. It's kind of our built-in margin day, and it really has made a huge difference in how our weeks feel. So if you don't already have a weekly rhythm, this is a great time to think about what that could look like for you. It doesn't have to be fancy. Just start by asking, what days are we doing school? What subjects need to happen most days? What subjects maybe could we rotate? And how do we want our days to feel? You're not planning the minute by minute here. You're just creating a weekly rhythm that supports your goals and matches your season. Also, think about the balance between mom-led work and independent work. In our home, I plan with 2 questions in mind. What does she need me for? And what can she do on her own? That alone helps me organize the week in a way that makes sense and doesn't leave either of us feeling burnt out. This kind of framework lets us stay consistent without being rigid, and it makes space for both routine and rest. And if something comes up, life happens, someone's sick, or we need to make a shift, I can adjust without feeling like we have fallen behind. Now, if you don't know where to start with building a weekly rhythm and you'd like me to go a little bit more in depth, let me know that down in the comments, because I would be happy to film a video kind of walking through what that looks like, how I've structured our weeks, and how I adjust as needed. But that is it for today's video. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will talk to you soon.